What's up, guys? Welcome back to your Heroclix headquarters, and today we're going to be talking about how to use the secret identity mechanic that first appeared in the Spider-Man and Venom Absolute Carnage set, and we saw a Wonder Woman in the Wonder Woman set, and I hope they continue it because it's a really awesome mechanic. But if you guys are wondering how to use it exactly, then I will answer all those questions here, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so how to use the secret identity trait. First, what is it? So, for example, today we'll be using the Peter Parker from Spider-Man and Venom Absolute Carnage. And he's a pretty cool figure. I like him a lot. He starts with the trait Secret Identity Spider-Man. When Peter Parker would be KO'd, you may instead replace him with a secret identity character with a listed name on click number 9. This game, when that replacement character is KO'd, it scores this character's points and an additional 25 points. So basically what that means is for 35 points you get to play Peter Parker on your team. You don't have to pay the additional 25 points or anything like that. You just get him on your team. And he can do everything he can do here, which is actually pretty good. He's got 9 movement with some leap climb to get around, 11 attack incap so he can incap some guys. He's autonomous so his actions don't count against your action total. 17 super senses so he can dodge some things, and he's got some probability control to help out his rolls as well as your team's rolls. Not to mention Spider-Man team ability to copy whatever team ability you might have. So he does a lot for 35 points as is. So basically, whenever your opponent would KO this Peter Parker here, whenever he would be KO'd, this is the important part, would be, technically he's not KO'd and your opponent hasn't scored any points yet. You can then bring from your sideline a Spider-Man, since the trait listed, Spider-Man right there, Secret Identity Spider-Man, that's the listed character it's talking about. You can bring a Spider-Man that is a secret identity character, so it'll say it right there above his card. And you can bring them off the sideline and replace him on click number 9, so we'll have 3 clicks of health there. And one other thing I want to point out about the secret identity character is when you bring them in on these last 3 clicks, that's really the only way you get these 3 clicks. You do not get these if you play them normally. Once they hit this KO, they're just KO'd. You don't get to, swap to this dial or anything. And, he's pretty good as well. I mean, he's got 10 attack, incap, 18 defense with some defend, some perplex, and that special movement power that gives him leap, climb, and sidestep, and passenger 1, so he can carry somebody around. Plus, he's got traded super senses to keep himself defended. So you can bring in this Spider-Man off your sideline and just replace the Peter Parker that would have been KO'd on click number 9 in the same square that he occupied. Because whenever you replace a character, you have to put them back in the same square that the replacement character occupied. So you get him on click number 9, and remember I said he would be KO'd, so your opponent hasn't scored any points for Peter yet. First they have to KO the Spider-Man. If they then KO the Spider-Man, then your opponent gets the points you paid for Peter Parker plus an additional 25, which 35 plus 25, that would give your opponent 60 points, which is good for your opponent. They're getting more points, but it's also much harder to get through essentially 2 whole characters than it would be for just one, right? Like one 60-point character is probably easier to KO than both of these normally would be. Especially because you'd have to do 4 to him, and then you'd have to do another 3 to him afterwards. And they've both got super senses, he's got prob, all kinds of stuff going on. So that's what makes this such a great mechanic, and I personally love it. It's one of my favorites they've done in recent years. And there's a lot of characters that came out in this set that can use this, as well as we've seen a Wonder Woman that came out in the Wonder Woman set that's also got the secret identity trait. And one of the other cool things about this is just because it says Secret Identity Spider-Man, which has to be a secret identity character with a listed name, it doesn't have to always be the same one. Sometimes it can be multiple, and sometimes it lists multiple characters too for some of these secret identity characters. So in Peter Parker's case, we also have a super rare Spider-Man that has the secret identity tag up here. So basically that means you have 2 options that you can put on the sideline, and you could bring out either one of them. Now, I'd say like 9 times out of 10, I would just use the super rare one because it's just overall better. It's got hypersonic with an 11 attack, 18 super senses, 3 damage with outwit, and that awesome special attack power that says when Spider-Man makes a close attack, he instead targets all adjacent opposing characters, so he can actually close attack everybody adjacent for 3 damage because he doesn't have to split his damage that way. So that's pretty awesome. So there are some really powerful secret identity characters that you can bring in off the sideline whenever your original person with the secret identity trait would be KO'd. And it's just so cool because they don't score the points until after they KO the second character, and it's not like you have to pay extra points, and you don't even have to replace them if you don't want to. If for some reason you just wanted to let Peter Parker be KO'd, give your opponent the 35 points because maybe you thought that they'd have an easy shot at KOing the Spider-Man and getting 60 points, you know, you can just do that. You can just let him be KO'd. You don't have to bring in the other Spider-Man at all. And that is basically all there is to it for the secret identity mechanic. It's really cool, really good, really fun, really strong mechanic, and I just think it's just one of the best ones they've done so far. But just real quick, while we're on the subject of these Spider-Mans specifically and Peter Parker, I wanted to also point out that this super rare Spider-Man has kind of, in a sense, a reverse version of the secret identity mechanic, because he has this trait that at the beginning of the game you may generate a garbage can object in your starting area, and also when he starts the game your opponent gets a J. Jonah Jameson bystander anywhere on the map. Now that is kind of a downside to bringing him in from Peter Parker, because then it's just when he starts the game. So even if he comes in the middle of the game, your opponent still gets that bystander. But to get the trash can object, you have to have him out at the beginning of the game. So you have to basically start with this Spider-Man, and then taking a look at the garbage can object here, it says this object can't be added to your starting force, only generated when a friendly Spider-Man would be KO'd. If this object is unheld, instead you may replace that Spider-Man with Peter Parker on click number 2, adjacent to this object, and if you do, KO this object. So you have to KO the object, which does give your opponent 10 points, and you can only generate this from him. So, but when he would be KO'd, you can bring in this Peter Parker and just put him adjacent to, the trash can anywhere, and you get him on click number 2 instead of click number 1, so you still get 3 clicks of life out of him. But as you can see, he pretty much has the exact same stuff to start out with, so it's not that big a deal. It's a really cool thing to be able to start with the really good Spider-Man, and kind of when he would be killed, you get this one out instead, the Peter Parker. It's a really cool thing. Now, the reason I bring this up is because you would think that after this Peter Parker would be KO'd, you'd be able to bring in another Spider-Man from your sideline, right? So that just replace him. And, I kind of feel like that's what they were going for. Starting as Spider-Man, Spider-Man no more, he's Peter Parker, but then he would be killed, and then he goes through the whole, oh, I gotta be Spider-Man again thing. That would be awesome. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way because characters can only be basically taken off of and put back on the sideline for the same effect, which basically means if you're adding this Peter Parker into the game because of the trash cans effect, then he can't then go back to the sideline and be replaced by something else for his own secret identity trait, because those are 2 different effects that would be bringing him in and then replacing him again. And so you can only pick one. So basically, you can only bring him in after he would be KO'd. He's just KO'd. He can't go back to the sideline and be replaced with his own effect to bring in a different Spider-Man. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. It would be cool if it did. I wish they had errated him to do that. I kind of hoped they would, but they didn't. So that's just how it's going to work. So I just wanted to let you guys know that if you didn't already know, because this is a pretty awesome Spider-Man still. And I mean, still, it still gives you extra life, and once this Peter Parker comes out, you can kind of just run him away, because then they don't score the points of the original Spider-Man either. They'd still get the 10 points for the object, but you can kind of, play keep away with the points that way. But all in all, like I said, the secret identity mechanic is awesome. I really, really, really hope we get more soon. I would love to get like a Bruce Banner that turns into the Hulk, a Tony Stark that turns into Iron Man, maybe like a Donald Blake or a Jane Foster that turns into Thor. All that kind of stuff would be awesome. Bruce Wayne that turns into Batman, a Clark Kent that turns into Superman. Like, we need all this stuff. It'd be so much fun. But anyway, that's about it for the secret identity mechanic. If you guys have any other questions, let me know in the comments. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. As always, if you found it useful, make sure you smash that like button. It does help me out a lot. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any other questions regarding this mechanic or want to see more about it. Let me know. And don't forget to click that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. And if you guys would like to help support the channel even more, check the links in the description for our Patreon, where you can see your name here in the credits, as well as some other cool stuff, so check that out. And that's going to do it for this one, so thanks again so much for watching, and until next time, this has been Heroclix Headquarters, signing off.